All right, guys, I got a lot to share with you guys, and I want to apologize for the delay. Had a lot of technical difficulties, but truckers boycotting New York City, they're on high alert. There's been a lot of new information that's coming out that I'm going to share with you guys in today's video. We have so much to cover, and I want to get through this quickly. A lot of things going on with New York City migrants. I don't know if you guys had heard about the state of Illinois removing Donald Trump from the state ballot. They are coming after Donald Trump like I've never seen before. If you guys are seeing what I'm seeing, definitely let me know in the comments. Also, let me know if you're able to see and hear me okay. It's been a while since I've been live on here, so I totally appreciate you guys. So Donald Trump must actually come up with a full bond amount to cover the $454 million civil fraud judgment amount. I have breaking news as of just a couple of hours ago to share with you guys on this. Actually, in addition to this, you guys are aware of the multiple trials that Donald Trump is involved in right now. New York City trial with District Attorney Letitia James. The judge presiding over that is Arthur Engeron, I should say. And then, of course, there's there's another big case taking place in Georgia. And what is it? I think she's the district attorney. I forget her exact position. District Attorney Fani Willis, which has actually opened up a new can of worms between Fani Willis and Nathan Wade, and whether or not there's going to be a disqualification of Fani Willis because of the conflict of interest, or at least it appears that way. I think, I'm trying to play it safe here, but I think we understand. I think we can really see what's going on here with Fani Willis and Nathan Wade. But whether or not they're going to actually disqualify Fani Willis from being able to remain on the case, and that remains to be seen. And there's a lot of new phone records that are coming out with that. So I've got a lot to share with you guys. I've got a lot of trucker information that I'm going to be sharing with you guys in terms of the New York City boycott update regarding Kathy Hochul later in this video. And the FBI. The FBI has been acting quickly, or has been pulled in to act quickly with regard to a hacker warning or threat against Donald Trump in terms of releasing records. So yes, we have a lot to discuss today. All I ask of you guys before we get into it is that you just kindly take a second, drop a quick like for the video. I totally appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. You are the best. And I just can't thank you enough for always sharing these videos. You guys are amazing. So let's go ahead and get started. So basically what we have here is you got Illinois judge refusing, or actually deciding to remove Donald Trump from the ballot. Now, we've seen this in Nevada. We've seen this in some other states. We've seen this in Maine. We've seen this in Colorado. And now Illinois is unfortunately the third state where Donald Trump has been booted from the ballot. Can you guys believe this? Like, this is unbelievable. I mean, I feel like, when you don't like someone, and you're, if you're President Joe Biden and you don't want to compete against someone in the 2024 presidential elections, think about what's in your tool bag, what's in your arsenal in terms of what you could possibly do to make it so that you don't have to compete against someone who you feel could theoretically give you a serious challenge and remove you from office. Like, now I can't prove that, there's any wrongdoing being done here, but just think about it. If you were president of the United States, what could you do to prevent someone from taking the presidential office from you? So, so here we have an Illinois judge announcing late Wednesday, just hours ago, that former President Donald Trump has been removed from the state's 2024 presidential Republican primary ballot over his alleged role in the January 6th, 2021 Capitol riot. So this is alleged, right? The trial is still ongoing. So what do you guys think about these states taking Trump off the ballot? Like, is this even fair? I mean, the trial is still ongoing, and the very people who are trying him they're under trial themselves between Nathan Wade and Fani Willis. So it's like, come on, guys, like, this is not even fair. Now, according to court documents obtained, Porter gave the order just hours ago urging the board to remove Trump or cause any votes cast for him to be suppressed. I can't make this stuff up, guys. They're literally saying cause any votes cast for him to be suppressed. Why would you want to suppress votes that were going to Donald Trump? Like, and they go on to say for violating the Section 3 of the 14th Amendment for the disqualification clause. So this is big news, guys. This is huge. This is breaking news, and this is leaving a lot of people up in arms right now. The U.S. Supreme Court is considering for the first time the meaning and the reach of Section 3 of the Constitution's 14th Amendment, which bars former office holders who engaged in insurrection from holding public office again. But here they are jumping the gun. Let me know if they I think they're jumping the gun, but you guys let me know. Do you think they're jumping the gun here? Jumping the gun and taking former President Donald Trump off the ballot when insurrection hasn't even been, there's no verdict yet. There's no verdict. So this is all, theoretical, and these states have basically the states have already charged Trump with insurrection. That's basically what they're doing. They're saying, hey, I know that there's a trial still going on. Fani Willis and Nathan Wade, they're investigating Donald Trump. They're trying Donald Trump for this trial in terms of, whether there's an insurrection taking place. But even though the trial is still ongoing, we're just going to go ahead and call him guilty right off the bat. And a lot of people feel like that's what happened in New York City with the other case going on with the basically $454 million judgment that has been penalized onto an individual, Donald Trump. $454 million. I mean, I've heard of large penalties being hit. I've heard of large companies being hit with large penalties, right? Major corporations, name your favorite corporation, it's happened, right? But here we have nearly a $500 million penalty hitting Donald Trump at a time when, this is an individual. He's not a corporation. He is a person. And then they hit his sons too with like $4 million each on top of that. This is unprecedented. And this is why a lot of investors, a lot of business owners are coming out and they're saying, hey, we're scared to do business in New York. We're scared to invest in New York City. Look at Kevin O'Leary, co-host on Shark Tank, investor on Shark Tank. He is literally leery about investing in New York City. And, so it really makes you wonder the direction of New York City, and then, of course, New York City being a sanctuary city with, a lot of migrants coming into the city at an alarming rate. It makes you wonder, where are we going from here? Can you really own and operate a business out of New York City? And, a lot of truckers have decided, even before this situation with Donald Trump, truckers have decided to boycott New York City for a variety of reasons. In fact, truckers were boycotting New York City for a long time for a number of reasons. In fact, a number of truckers have actually reached out to me. And I appreciate you members. Some of you members of the channel have reached out to me and basically said, hey, there are so many reasons why we're not going to New York City. Number one, it's the traffic. Number two, it's the restrictions. Number three, depending upon the dimensions of your truck, I forget if it's the height, the weight, the length of your truck. I know it's the length of the truck that's having some restrictions. But basically, some truckers, if you don't live in New York City or live in the state of New York, you can't even drive to New York without getting some permit. And I want to say that one of the truckers was saying, if your truck was longer than 53 feet, you couldn't even drive it into New York City without getting a permit or at all. I forget what it was. And, these are truckers that have had their CDL licenses for 10 years. And they're like, hey, I'm fed up with New York City. The cost of parking, the traffic, the amount of time allocated to get through, the different boroughs in New York City, Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, Long Island, Staten Island, the Bronx, you name it. So, and now they're charging so much more. I mean, New Yorkers are getting screwed here, the residents here, because there's so many truckers that don't want to drive to New York. And those who are willing to drive to New York are now charging like a premium of like extra $2,000. Like, hey, so, these companies, these stores, they're not going to just eat this $2,000 and not raise the prices in the stores. These entrepreneurs are going to make sure to pass that cost on to the people. So inflation plus this added tax for bringing these products into New York City is just getting out of control. And it's only getting worse. And forget about Kevin Leary not wanting to invest in New York City. Look at Grant Cardone and Cardone Capital. I was reading that Grant Cardone, he invests on behalf of like 14,000 investors, and they're like, hey, we can't predict the revenues in New York City. If I'm Grant Cardone and I own Cardone Capital, I'm a billionaire, and I'm responsible for the portfolios and the investments of 14,000 different investors. And New York is pulling some off the wall, never seen before in 75 years type of verdicts in the courtroom. Do I really want to invest my money here? A smart investor is going to look at the risk reward ratio and probably look at other options. And I think that's what Grant Cardone with Cardone Capital is doing here. So get this, guys. So breaking news update here just in the last couple of hours. Trump's now got to come up with like the full bond amount to cover the $454 million civil fraud case judgment. So the appeals court judge is now ruling that former President Donald Trump has to come up with a full amount. Now, we talked about this in a previous video. We were talking about how Trump's lawyers were actually going to be requesting an appeal, and that he wouldn't have to actually front the full amount. They would just charge him interest while it was in appeals. Of course, he'd get really screwed if he didn't win the appeal and then had to pay $454 million plus $112,000 per day in interest. Can you imagine that? I mean, I don't know how much you make, but I'm willing to bet that most people walking down the street don't even make $112,000 a year, and they're banging him in the head for $112,000 a day in interest, which is even more wilder than the initial estimate of $87,000 per day, what they were initially going to charge him in interest, until he paid the full amount. And then, of course, you got Letitia James, who openly admitted that she basically wanted to go after him. She's looking at his like 40 Wall Street building address and saying, to the world, really, that she looks at it every day and she's willing to seize his assets if Donald Trump can't come up with the money to pay off this $454 million judgment against him. And so that's just, it makes you, it's like, why? It's like, it almost makes you feel like this is a personal vendetta against this individual who, let's be honest, like, let's just call a spade a spade. Are they hating on Donald Trump? Are they upset at his level of success? I mean, like, you guys let me know what you think the real deal is here, because it almost seems like they just personally don't like Trump, and they are looking at his level of success and they're saying, hey, he's doing too much. He's got too much going for him. He's got, he's got Mar-a-Lago. He's got all these different golf courses. He's got his name in gold on the, Manhattan Trump building. We don't like the Trump Tower. If you go to Las Vegas, I don't know how many of you guys even like Las Vegas or ever been to Las Vegas. If you go to Las Vegas, you got the big old gold Trump Tower not far from the Las Vegas Strip. And some people just don't like that level of success. But then, you got some people who are saying, hey, Trump would do something for the borders. I mean, you got Biden in the office right now saying that we need to raise like, another $100 billion to, for all these other causes in order for him to address the border situation at the southern border with Texas. You guys understand what's going on with the southern borders, at the southern borders with basically you got Governor Greg Abbott down there trying to protect America by himself because the federal government is refusing to step in by way of Joe Biden, because they're saying that they need more money for the Ukraine in order to protect our borders here. Now, I need you guys' help. Number one, if you haven't already, like the video if you haven't already. share this video with someone who needs to hear it. But in all honesty, um, I need your help. I need you to tell me. I need you to help me make some sense of this. How is it that you need money for the Ukraine and all these overseas wars to address a local southern border here in the United States issue? Like, why do you need money for overseas fights and wars to address the Texas border and the Arizona border and the Southern California border, which leads into Mexico? I don't understand how this is even a conversation. This is beyond me. So maybe I'm just not smart enough to understand the logic there. Maybe you guys can help me out. So anyway, by the way, if you guys are able to see and hear me okay, just hit me up in the comments. Let me know you're able to see and hear me. So get this, guys. So you got Associate Justice Anil Sain lifted a ban on Trump's ability to obtain loans from New York regulated financial institutions, which allows him to access the equity in his assets to back the full bond amount. So this is actually good news. This piece, this part is actually good news for Trump. They actually lifted because looking at it full scope, you hit him with $454 million in lawsuit. Then you tell him that he also can't do business in New York City for 3 years, nor can his sons, basically, right? Then on top of that, you tell him that he can't even borrow money or get loans against his own properties to pay the fine that you assigned to him. So it's like, wow. So you you basically want to handcuff him, throw him in the water, throw him in the middle of the ocean and say, okay, try to survive. And that's basically what they're doing here. His hands are tied. So finally, Associate Justice Anil Sain says they lifted a ban on Trump's ability to obtain loans. So apparently he can probably hit up maybe a hedge fund or some type of investor or investment firm, a bank, and borrow some money against his assets. Because here's the thing. Good luck. I mean, I don't know if you've ever tried to sell a house in this housing market right now, but if you try to sell a house in this housing market right now with interest rates as high as they are, that house might sit for a while. So imagine if you have a $500 million building that you need to sell in order to pay off $454 million. How quickly do you think that might sell? It might take a while for you to find a buyer. I mean, commercial real estate can literally sit on the market for years before actually finding a buyer. But here's the other thing that a lot of people are not talking about. They literally put Trump in a very difficult spot, because if you got to come up with $454 million. Even if you sold your assets, chances are, looking at the economy and the real estate values appreciating over the last 5 years tremendously. And obviously it's a little bit different for commercial real estate, but if you look at real estate values appreciating, over time. Now, granted, these are long-term. I'm assuming that these are long-term capital gains that he'd have to deal with. But if he sold any of his properties, chances are, Trump's a smart guy. He wrote the Art of the Deal book. I don't know if you guys have ever read that book, Art of the Deal. Anyway, smart guy. His properties are worth more than he paid for them. I'm pretty sure. Maybe he leveraged some of them, pulled some cash out, but according to Forbes, he's got a lot of debt-free, paid off properties, right? So I highly doubt that he's really overly leveraged in terms of loans and whatnot on these properties. So if he were to sell some of his properties in order to come up with $454 million, number one, it's going to take a long time. Number two, we talked about Kevin O'Leary and Shark Tank, right? Well, there's going to be sharks in the water. Everyone and their mom is watching this case. You can't live in America and not understand that Trump is under attack right now. So what's going to happen? If he needed to sell any of his commercial properties, anyone who can afford this would be either a hedge fund, they'd be a bank, they would be a lender, some type of investment firm, or another billionaire, right? What would happen is they would know that Trump is not selling out of just because he wants to liquidate the asset. They would know that Trump would have to sell because he's desperate to either come up with some cash. And I'm not saying Trump's broke, because clearly he's not. But most billionaires don't have all of their net worth in cash. So he would have to liquidate. He'd have to sell one of his buildings. So what's going to happen is, number one, there's a good chance that a lot of people could be put out of work, and that's a big problem. And I don't know how much New York City even cares about that. I mean, look at the economy. Like, can you imagine, like, you work for Trump and, Trump's taking care of you, paying your, paying your paycheck because you work for the organization in some way or another, and all of a sudden you lose your job because he got screwed. But here's another thing. These business owners who could afford to buy Trump's building to give him the cash to be able to pay off this fine, they're going to know he's in need of this to happen, right? And they are also going to know he's getting hit with $112,000 a day in interest. So what do you think is going to happen? Well, any investor, any smart, and this is nothing. This is not like a it's not like a dig against any investors, right? But an investor would say, hey, Donald Trump needs to sell this property. So I'm not going to give him what it's worth. I'm going to give him, let's just say it's a $500 million property, right? I'm not going to give him $500 million. I'm going to offer him like 350, right? So you offer him $350 million on a property that's worth 500 million. And now, what do? Well, you could take the money and lose $150 million on your property, because how many other buyers are even going to be in this pool here to buy it from him, right? So this creates a mess. And then on top of that, with the number of people who are working remotely and people aren't working in the buildings as much, the values of some of these buildings may have actually gone down. So this may actually be one of the worst times to sell commercial real estate for Donald Trump. Here's another thing that, that could also screw him. And this would be absolutely horrible for New York. It would be horrible for Donald Trump. It would be horrible for a lot of people, right? Think about this. Like I said, chances are his buildings have appreciated, right? So Donald Trump, if he were to sell his properties, he's going to have to pay tax. He's definitely going to have to pay some federal tax. I'm pretty sure. I don't want to say definitely. There's a good chance he'll end up having to pay some federal tax. So let's just say Donald Trump says, hey, I got a building that's worth $500 million. Fine, I'll sell this building, right? Well, okay, whoever can afford to buy this thing, they're going to say, hey, I'm not buying it for your asking price. I'm going to lowball you. Kind of like you go into a dealership, they're asking 40 grand for a car, you offer them 36 or whatever. You negotiate back and forth and you finally bought a car, right? Well, the situation will be worse for Trump because all of his business is out in the air right now. So no one's going to offer him $500 million for a building that's worth $500 million. They're going to say, hey, here's 350. So even if he took 350, then he's going to get hit with tax. How much is that tax going to be? It might hit him for another $50 million in tax. I'm spitballing here, right? But the simple fact of the matter is that he may only walk away with $300 million. And who knows what happens to the employees that work there and their families and their kids that are in daycare that, who knows, right? So now he's only got $300 million. I don't know. I'm saying only $300 million, but you get my point, right? It's a horrible situation, and they're just. I feel like they're throwing everything but the kitchen sink at this guy, and you got multiple states that are taking him off the ballot, almost trying to guarantee that he has the most impossible chance at winning the 2024 presidential election. It's getting unreal here, guys. So if they're not targeting this guy, then I don't know what targeting looks like. But the funny thing is a lot of this is backfiring, because anybody who's watching this thing unfold, they're saying, hey, look, Trump's the victim here. I'm now a fan of Trump just because I feel like all of this is just unfair at this point, right? I'm just thinking about what some voters may be thinking about right now, some independent voters. Even I was reading a poll just recently, 41% of Democrats are saying, hey, we don't think that Biden would be the best person to address our borders going from 2024 and beyond. I mean, look what he's done already. So 41% of voters are already and get this, the border situation, the southern border situation with Texas and Mexico has moved to number one in terms of the number one concern that most Americans have right now, right? So most Americans have literally put the border crisis at the forefront of problems for the United States, before the economy, before inflation, before all these other different things, right? So you got Democrats who are now looking at Trump as who they may vote for. Now, this is unprecedented. This is unprecedented. You could literally have 41% of your Democratic base voting for Donald Trump. Because it's funny, like they're doing all these different things and coming after him, and it's literally almost backfiring. They're not quite watching how the American people are observing how they're taking in this news that's coming out. So I got a lot more to share with you guys. I'm gonna save that for a future video. However, there was this. So basically, there were some hackers that threatened to release Trump's documents from Georgia, the Georgia case, if they don't get a ransom by Thursday. So that's tomorrow, guys. Like it's like 10:23 p.m. right now. So in like, I don't know, in a few hours, these hackers, this hacking group, which is responsible for taking down Fulton County websites in Georgia, is now threatening to publish documents from the state's court system, including ones that were related to the criminal case against Donald Trump, unless they get paid a ransom. Now, apparently, this hacking group is called Lockbit, and they stole documents. And basically it contains a lot of interesting things about Donald Trump's court cases that could affect the upcoming U.S. election. Now that's big, guys. That's big. So the question is, now initially, get this, guys. Initially, Lockbit set a Saturday, March the 2nd deadline for the payment, but Lockbit has since moved up that deadline to 8:49 a.m. tomorrow. Okay, so keep an eye on this. Keep an eye on this. This is breaking news. Okay, and it's not clear how much money that they're asking for, but if this gets released, I can only imagine what could possibly happen. Like if this hacking organization releases some information, can it even be used in court? Like, can this legally, this actually may turn out to be some of the best news Donald Trump could ever get. Depends on whatever happens. If this ransom is not paid, maybe they don't want to pay the ransom. Maybe Donald Trump's legal team says, hey, let this ransom expire. Expose all of this information, expose all these documents and details about Donald Trump. And then ultimately the whole case has to be thrown out, because there is, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an attorney, but I watch a number of these different shows, and basically you can have evidence, but it's all about how you gather this evidence that allows it to be admissible in court or not. So if these records get thrown out by, or get released by this hacking group called Lockbit, then and assuming that the cybersecurity team can't stop them from doing this, then this may literally throw out the entire case between Donald Trump and Fani Willis and Nathan Wade. It may throw it out entirely. So that's going to be very interesting. It says here, the group led by a hacker using the pseudonym Lockbit Sup appeared to become operational again over the weekend after a February 20th law enforcement raid. A group of agencies, including the FBI and the United Kingdom's National Crime Agency, took down 34 of its servers and changed its website to a series of messages bragging about the law enforcement operation. The same day, the U.S. Department of Justice unsealed an indictment accusing 2 Russian nationals of being involved in the group's hacking operations. Interesting. 2 Russian nationals. Go figure. So that's what's going on there. Now, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, the New York City truckers boycott going on. And, a lot of them, there's a lot of truckers that support Trump there. And I don't want you guys to think like I'm saying all truckers support Trump. That's not the case. Some truckers don't support Trump. They hate Trump. But there's other truckers that literally ride or die for Trump, right? So anyway, there was a post that was on Instagram. There was a post that was on Twitter, and basically was talking about how Basically truckers that were supporting Trump or boycotting New York City for New York City deliveries may have their assets seized, their homes taken, bank accounts seized, and whatnot. So anyway, I shared that with you guys yesterday, talking about how it did not look legitimate, and here it is today, confirmed that Kathy Hochul did not warn truckers that New York City boycott is a hate crime against migrants. Okay. So it is confirmed. I told you guys yesterday that I didn't think that it was legit, and this just kind of comes out and confirms it here on USA Today. So USA Today says the claim, which was New York governor said that trucker boycott is a hate crime against migrants and it threatened to seize truckers' homes. So anyway, it goes on to say here a February 26th Instagram post showed a photo of New York Governor Kathy Hochul speaking from a lectern. And it quote says New York Governor Hochul. Let me go ahead and see if I can capture this. Boom. Okay. So when I say, so basically, yeah, this is on USA Today. I'll try to remember to leave a link for you guys to the article in the description after the live ends. But basically, it's quoting here saying New York City Governor Kathy Hochul warns truckers. And that was some text that was in this Instagram post. And it goes on to say, quote, not delivering to New York is a hate crime against illegals. And because Wall Street and the Federal Reserve are in New York, the ruling on Trump set precedent, hence giving her authority to empty their bank accounts and seize their homes, end quote. And so this post got a lot of traction. It was on Instagram. It was on Twitter, currently known as X. So anyway, USA Today came out to confirm that Kathy Hochul has not issued any such statement. According to a spokesperson, there is likewise no record of her threatening to seize homes of truckers who participate in the boycott or claiming to have the power to do so. So I just wanted to kind of debunk the myth for you guys officially, that this is just completely bogus. And I told you guys this yesterday, but here's the thing, guys. Let's just say even if this was the case, how the heck would she even know? How would New York City even know if a trucker is boycotting New York City or not, right? Like, number one, you'd have to know that that the reason why a trucker is not delivering to New York is because they're boycotting, not simply because it's not feasible for their business, not simply because they just decide not to want to deliver to New York City because the traffic sucks, or because there's NYPD camping out left and right, ready to pull truckers over and give them these outrageous fines for driving through the city, right? Or never mind the fact that the streets are like so ridiculously narrow that, driving an 18-wheeler is almost begging for a lawsuit, because all it takes is to be off by an inch as you're driving and someone claims that, oh, you hit my car, right? So who wants, and then can you imagine like trying to back up an 18-wheeler down 34th Street in New York because you're trying to get, it's like there's so many reasons why people wouldn't, a trucker, a CDL driver, a owner operator would not want to drive through New York City and make deliveries beyond the boycott, right? So who's to say that truckers aren't boycotting New York City for that reason, or they're just not going to New York City because of any of those reasons. So I'm just putting it out. And then on top of that, it's like, okay, well, even if New York City knew that truckers were even if New York City knew truckers were boycotting New York City, how would you even figure out who their bank is and what their bank account number is to try to seize their banks? So it's just a whole lot of nonsense. This was a big red flag out the gate. We knew this, and I just want to just kind of debunk this for you guys. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. I want to jump in the comments and just say hello to you guys. What are y'all thinking tonight? If you haven't already, definitely hit the like button for the video. I appreciate you guys sharing these videos. You guys are absolutely freaking amazing. I love you guys. We're gonna get through this. There's a lot of drama going on, a lot of noise. So Fed Up Patriot says, with God, all things are possible. He makes a way when there is no way. And he promised that he would always be with us, even even till the end of the world. I agree with you, man. I agree. So we got Bees 777. We got Chuck W. Amen, Denise. Um, Gerald Blake says they had her on the news saying that. Gerald, if you can drop me a link for what the news station that had her saying that, I'd love to hear that. Um, that would be wild if you can prove that, because I would love to see that. Because if she actually said that and then she's like now reneging, now that's something else. You know what I'm saying? Um, so Denise Gardner says, I said Gardner. I was thinking Stephen Gardner. Denise Garner says, we all need to pray for Trump. He's going through way too much. We all know who is doing this. Um, yeah. So Tim Finnan says, my gut feeling tells me most Americans are starting or already smell to crap. um, Anyway, guys, I'm gonna keep dropping the updates. I'm gonna keep dropping the news for you guys. I know a lot of some of these stories I shared with you guys tonight you hadn't heard of, but I just want to keep you guys in the loop, informed of what's going on. There's a lot of stuff popping off, and it's kind of hard to keep up. But I'm gonna keep you guys posted. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me this evening, and y'all have a great one. Have a good night.